Hey YouTubers, welcome back to the channel. It's Friday. This is the Cultural Confederacy. Smoking my pipe, enjoying my great value root beer. This feels to me like a pipe chat video. That's what it feels like. In fact, I think I'm going to start doing some pipe chat videos. Now, the reason I say that is because they released this body cam footage in the Gabby Petito case, the second body cam footage. And I need to talk about this because this is a teachable moment. And I'm not sure what to say here, so just bear with me. But I want to be honest with my audience. And something that I learned in this case is that what you see on camera, well, I've known this for a long time, but this just reiterates the point that what you see on camera sometimes isn't always the reality of what goes on in somebody's life behind the scenes. And obviously, Gabby Petito was in a toxic relationship. You can see this in the body cam footage. And there are a few chilling moments in this footage. First starts, I think, about 10 minutes in, where she's sitting in the back. You probably have seen this, where she's sitting in the back of the police car. And she's crying. Now, I'm just going to illustrate to you verbally what she's doing. I'm not trying to poke fun at Gabby Petito. But I'm just trying to illustrate to you verbally, because I feel more comfortable behind the camera. I want to illustrate to you what she was doing in the back of the vehicle. I just have to make up a time with this because it just gets frustrating with me sometimes. And I was trying to work on something. It's been a real stressful morning, and I don't want to be separated from him. Clear-cut sign. She is in some type of toxic relationship, but she is so dependent on Brian, who I believe was probably a leech, living off of her. I don't even think this guy had a job. Probably one of those types where his parents give him everything. But that's what she was doing in the back of this vehicle. So a clear-cut sign that she is in a toxic relationship, that she is facing some type of abuse. But she loves him. She can't be without him. Let me tell you something. To anybody out there that's in an abusive relationship, no relationship is worth your dignity. Okay? No relationship is worth your dignity, self-worth. You have a right to feel safe. You have the right to pursue your dreams, and nothing should hold you back. Nothing. And this is something that has faded from our society. We don't talk about it very often. But remember the days of free love back in the 60s? Everybody was hooking up with everybody else. They were doing it anywhere and everywhere they felt like. Do it in the road. And that song by the Beatles, Do It in the Road. So because of that, decades later, this is what we have. All these cases of abuse in this country. People in toxic relationships. I'm a product of divorce. The divorce rate in the 70s. And I've seen up close and personal what abuse is like. I had a parent, I don't want to say who, but they've been married 5 or 6 times. And in one of those relationships, one of those marriages, thank God, not with my father. My dad is a great man. I love my dad. My dad is an example of what fathers and men should be in this country. Absolutely. But this person that my parent was married to was very abusive. I witnessed their arm being pressed against the sink, them sitting on the floor next to the dining table, being treated like a child. And it turns out that this person that she married, who she married on a dream, shot his former wife. But my parent didn't know that. And when you see people in that type of relationship, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about one particular family in this case or the other, Let me just be really clear about that. But when you see that, that's a dead ringer that that person probably grew up in a very strict household. There may or may have not been abuse there, but they probably grew up in a strict household. So they become very submissive. Maybe that person wasn't around like they should have been. So they become dependent on these people they get into these relationships with. And they end up getting hurt. And that's what I think happened in this situation. So I want to say it again. I'm not saying something bad about this particular family or that particular family in this case. I'm just saying, generally speaking, you're going to find in a lot of these abusive relationships, either the person was abused when they were younger or they grew up in some type of strict environment. And they end up developing this dependency complex, I want to call it. So if they go out there and find themselves a man or a woman because they never learned how to be independent. I think you had two people that were immature, young, immature, had different views on the world, young idealist. They thought they'd get together, convert this van into a camper, travel across country, document it, but one person didn't have their heart in it. One person didn't support the other. You can't survive in a relationship like that. You just can't. It's the honeymoon syndrome. You get married, you have the honeymoon, then one day you wake up and the honeymoon's over. Then reality sits in. Wait a minute. We're living together. We're married. We got to pay bills. Our names are going to be on the same checking account. What if we want to have kids? What if we want to buy a house? What if we need to go get a loan for a car? We got to buy groceries. Pay for the light bill. The drudgery of day-to-day life sets in once the honeymoon period is over. A lot of people are scrutinizing the police in this case. And yes, there are some questions. For example, why didn't they ask straight up at the beginning of this body cam footage, why didn't they ask for license and registration? Brian was behind the wheel. They would have found out that this was Gabby's vehicle. They eventually did, but they should have, I think, done that first. From witness accounts, he was locking her out of the vehicle. She was trying to get back into the vehicle. He slapped her or she slapped him. One witness said that he grabbed her by the chin. That's why she had those scratch marks on her chin. You don't ever do that. You never do that to a woman. So you have two people in a toxic relationship that feed off of that anxiety, that negative energy. And then it starts affecting other people because here they are driving down the road, getting into this argument, jumping the curb in Moab, Utah. Then they get pulled over for a traffic stop based on what these witnesses said or what happened at the Moonflower Co-op. And I think these officers were doing the best that they could given the information they had at the time, given the law in Utah, this bonehead law. Now, I believe the law is in Utah that whoever the main aggressor is, that person is generally the one to be arrested. But the officer was trying to be nice. He wasn't trying to arrest anybody. He knew this girl was scared. I think he knew that she was in a bad relationship, and she was probably just trying to give it to her easy. Didn't seem like Gabby had a criminal record or anything like that. So the best thing to do would be to separate them. Or at least one of them. Yeah, separate them and have somebody stay at a hotel. Allow Gabby to keep her vehicle because it's her property. That was probably the thinking. And the other chilling moment in this video is towards the very end, where the officer says, we don't have a crystal ball. These two basically got into a slap fight. What they did here, or what we're up against, doesn't meet the statute. He had to call his supervisor to double check. So I applaud the officer for doing that, for going the extra mile, to make sure that what he was doing was in line with what the statute was. But it's a bonehead law, in my humble opinion, that was passed in Utah. Why not arrest both of them? But he said in the video, in the body cam footage, that he didn't want to separate them and say, if you do this again, we're going to come back and we're going to arrest you. Well, why not? His thinking was, well, if we do that, they're not going to call the cops. If they're in real trouble, one of the to is in real trouble, who are they going to turn to? And I can understand that. So you have these officers that come across a situation that they're not used to in Moab, Utah. They're trying to do everything in accordance with what the law is. But you know what a lot of this goes back to? It goes back to the scrutiny of the police, this anti-police movement that we have in this country. Well, cops now aren't going to be able to do their job because we have so scrutinized the police. I'm not going to say who, but a particular political faction in this country wanted body cam footage. And now that they see the body cam footage and they see what these officers have to go through, they don't know how to respond to this. I mean, what would you do in that situation? Yes, there were probably some missteps. But again, they were doing the best that they could given the information at the time. The thinking was with one of the officers, okay, well, let's separate them. Let's do a crime report. And I'll send this off to the city attorney. The city attorney can determine at that point if this does in fact meet the statute. Because they were kind of in a gray area there. And the one officer told the other, okay, I'll support you either way, but just remember that if you make this decision, you're probably going to hear about it. And I think that officer understood that. But what was he to do? He's damned if you do, or you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's what I'm trying to say. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And there was a female officer, or maybe a ranger, and she said, hey, I'd rather be held accountable for the decision I made rather than the decision I didn't make. And I totally agree with that. But if you are in a bad relationship, you need to get help. There are people who will help you through this, who will get you out of that toxic relationship. And you know, something else too, and maybe I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video, but I want to be honest with you guys, okay? As somebody who comes here and do these YouTube videos, I want to be honest. I love my audience. I love doing this channel. I love life. And I want to be a positive influence here on YouTube any way that I can. I just went to one of my videos, and it was my Where's Brian video, or Brian Laundrie Under the Nose video. I had a theory about where I think, or I have a theory about where I think he is, talked about in that video. I got over 200 views. I couldn't believe it. Now, maybe that's not much to somebody who's got, let's say, 10,000 views out there on YouTube, but that means I'm reaching 200 or so people. And that makes me feel so good that I'm doing something positive in our society. And when I come to YouTube and do these videos, I want to be real with you. I don't want to be somebody who's behind or in front of the camera, who's got a phony smile, who's with somebody in this quote-unquote picture-perfect relationship, and behind the scenes, it's not perfect at all. So I want to be honest with you. And I want you to come here and have fun when you watch the videos. Because I think being honest with my audience is something that you need right now. You need someone who's genuine. Because we can see from this case here that you have two people who, yes, they were in love, but behind the scenes they had this toxic relationship, and they wanted to do this blog, or Gabby wanted to do this blog, and this is a romance gone wrong. So I just thought I'd come here, talk to you honestly. May have not said everything I wanted to say, but I believe in being real with people. What you see is what you get on the channel. Look, I don't have all the equipment in the world to do these videos. But I'm here and I'm doing them. If that means I have to take out a piece, which is what I normally do, take out a piece of paper and take a marker and do my handwritten graphic, that's what I'm going to do to get the video out there. But I had to come here and talk about this because this is a crucial moment in our culture, in our society right now. Could the cops have done something different here? Could Gabby have done something different there? Should she have left this guy a long time ago? We don't know all the gritty details. We don't need to know all the gritty details. But we know what the end result was. Let's work together to make sure that we don't have another Gabby Petito. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click that like button, subscribe, hit me up on Instagram at #JasonComposes, leave comments below. And now you can reach me Twitter, Culture Confederacy Twitter. This is Culture Confederacy saying peace out, stay safe, everybody. God bless this great country, and I'll catch you next time.